They left no trace of their presence following human wilderness ethics. Leave no impact. The human team's camp on the second night of the survival test had been peaceful. They had established their routine. Sora kept watch with her sensitive tendrils detecting the smallest vibrations. Jiho maintained the fire. Aaron prepared food. Minho and Yuna discussed their route for the next day. Everything seemed under control. Then Sora's tendrils suddenly stood straight up in alarm. "Something is coming," she whispered urgently. Multiple large creatures, moving together, coordinated. The humans immediately went quiet. They did not panic. Minho moved to the perimeter where his early warning markers were placed. Several had been disturbed. Something was circling the camp. Something intelligent enough to test their defenses. Through the darkness, 6 pairs of eyes reflected the firelight. The creatures stepped into view gradually. They were called Skrilla, pack hunters native to K-47. Each one stood about chest-high to a human, built low to the ground with powerful legs and sharp claws. Their scales were dark, perfect for night hunting. Most importantly, their movements were coordinated. They spread out, surrounding the camp from different angles. Back on the academy station, Professor Velthar and other instructors watched through monitoring equipment. Every student wore trackers that transmitted video and vital signs. The professor leaned forward with concern. "Skrilla packs are Class 4 predators. They hunt with coordinated tactics. Should we extract the human team?" One instructor checked the data. "The humans' heart rates are elevated but stable. They are not panicking. Let us wait and observe. We can extract them in seconds if needed." Back at the camp, Yuna assessed the situation calmly. 6 Skrilla, pack hunters. They are testing us to see if we are easy prey. They hunt like earth wolves, Minho observed. They will probe our defenses. Look for weakness. If they find it, they will attack as a coordinated unit. Sora's tendrils trembled with fear. "What do we do? Should we activate our emergency beacons?" "Not yet," Jiho said firmly. He picked up the spear he had made earlier. "We can handle this if we stay together." Aaron added more wood to the fire, making it burn brighter and hotter. Most predators fear fire. It is an instinctive response. The fire will make them hesitate. The Skrilla circled slowly, making low growling sounds. They were communicating with each other, coordinating their approach. One would feint forward, testing the camp's response. Another would move from a different angle. They were intelligent, searching for the weakest point. Minho stood up slowly and deliberately. He picked up a burning branch from the fire. The flames cast dancing shadows across his face. "Everyone, stand up," he said quietly. "Make yourselves big. Move together. Make noise." The humans and Sora stood as a group. They spread their arms, making themselves appear larger. Jiho grabbed a metal pot from their supplies and began banging it rhythmically with a stick. The loud clanging echoed through the jungle. Aaron shouted, not words, just loud aggressive sounds. Yuna stamped her feet in rhythm with the banging. The Skrilla hesitated. This was not the response they expected. Prey usually ran or cowered. These creatures were standing their ground, making themselves appear larger, creating loud noises that hurt the Skrilla's sensitive ears. Minho took a step forward toward the nearest Skrilla. He held the burning branch out in front of him. He made direct eye contact with the creature. He did not blink. He did not look away. In the animal kingdom, direct eye contact was a challenge. He acclaimed to territory, a message that said, "I am not prey. I am predator." The Skrilla backed up a step. Its packmates shifted nervously. They were reassessing. These creatures were small. They had no natural armor or claws, but they controlled fire. They acted like apex predators. They did not show fear. Another Skrilla tried approaching from the opposite side. Yuna immediately moved to intercept, picking up her own burning branch. She mimicked Minho's stance. Confident, aggressive, unafraid. "We are not prey," Minho said loudly, though he knew the Skrilla could not understand his words, but they would understand his tone, his posture, his refusal to back down. "This is our territory now. You need to leave." The Skrilla pack continued circling for several more minutes. Each time one would test the perimeter, a human would respond immediately. The fire stayed bright. The noises continued. The humans moved as a coordinated unit, just as the Skrilla did, but with intelligence rather than just instinct. Finally, the Skrilla Alpha made a decision. These creatures were too dangerous to attack. The risk outweighed the potential reward. The Alpha made a low barking sound and the pack began to withdraw. Slowly at first, watching to ensure the humans did not pursue, then faster, melting back into the jungle darkness. The humans maintained their aggressive stance for several more minutes after the Skrilla left. Then gradually they relaxed. Minho returned the burning branch to the fire. Jiho stopped banging the pot. The normal jungle sound slowly returned. Sora's tendrils were shaking badly. That was terrifying, she said, her voice unsteady. I thought we would have to fight them. Fighting should always be the last option, Yuna said gently. Fighting means risk of injury. Even if you win, you might get hurt. It is better to make your enemy decide not to fight at all. But how did you know they would leave? Sora asked. Minho sat down by the fire, his breathing returning to normal. I did not know for certain, but I understood their behavior. Pack hunters like Skrilla are intelligent. They calculate risk versus reward. Prey that fights back is dangerous prey. Prey that shows confidence is probably not prey at all. We convinced them we were predators in this territory, not food. Jiho checked everyone for injuries. No one was hurt. This is what humans mean by psychological warfare, he said. We did not have to be stronger than them. We just had to make them believe attacking us would cost them too much. At the academy station, the instructors were silent. Professor Velthar finally spoke. I have taught this course for 20 years. I have never seen students handle a Skrilla encounter without either fleeing or sustaining injuries. The humans just convinced them to leave. Another instructor shook her head in amazement. They understood predator psychology perfectly. They used fire as a deterrent. They made themselves appear larger and more dangerous. They showed no fear. The Skrilla had no choice but to recategorize these humans from prey to competing predators. Back at the camp, the team settled down for the rest of the night. They increased their watch rotation, keeping the fire burning bright. Sora stayed awake even when it was not her turn to watch. She was still processing what had happened. On Earth, she said softly to Minho, who was on watch duty, are there many predators like the Skrilla? Many, Minho confirmed. Wolves, as I mentioned. Large cats like lions and tigers, bears, crocodiles, many others. Humans learned to coexist with all of them. Sometimes we fought them. Sometimes we avoided them. Sometimes we even made allies of them. Allies? Sora's tendrils curled in confusion. How do you make allies with predators? Humans domesticated wolves thousands of years ago, Minho explained. We turned them into dogs. We fed them and protected them, and they helped us hunt and guarded our homes. We took creatures that could kill us and made them into loyal companions. This is a very human thing to do. Sora thought about this. You humans are strange. You are apex predators, but you also cooperate with other species. You are dangerous but also kind. You can face down a pack of hunters without weapons, but you also build shelters and help those weaker than you. I do not understand how you can be both things. Yuna, who was also awake, answered. Humans are social creatures. We evolved to live in groups. To survive on Earth, we needed both competitive skills and cooperative skills. We needed to be dangerous to enemies and protective of allies. These two things are not contradictory. They work together. Being dangerous makes you a better protector, Aaron added. If you can fight off threats, you can keep your group safe. If you understand predator behavior, you can defend against predators. Humans are protective because we are dangerous, not despite it. The night passed without further incident. When morning came, the team continued their journey to the extraction point. They moved carefully but confidently. The jungle that had seemed so threatening 2 days ago now felt familiar. They understood its rhythms, its dangers, its resources. When they finally reached the extraction point on the third day, several other teams were already there. Hajun's team looked exhausted and injured. 2 members had activated emergency beacons and been evacuated earlier. Nari's team had given up completely. Other teams showed various levels of distress. The human team arrived looking tired but healthy. Their clothing was dirty but intact. They had minor scratches and insect bites, nothing serious. Most remarkably, they seemed almost relaxed. Sora stayed close to them, her tendrils bright with confidence she had not shown before. When the extraction ship arrived and they boarded, the medical team examined everyone. The doctor, a gentle Quellen like Professor Velthar, examined Minho carefully. You encountered a Skrilla pack, the doctor said. It was not a question. The monitoring equipment had recorded everything. Yes, Minho confirmed. And you face them down without weapons or armor. The doctor continued. I have reviewed the recording. It was remarkably executed. You understood? The announcement came during morning assembly. Professor Velthar stood before all the Apex Predator Studies students. His forearms crossed, and what the students had learned meant he was serious. The time has come for your final examination, he said. You will participate in a 72-hour survival test on Habitat World K-47. Nervous murmurs spread through the crowd. Nari felt her wings fold tightly against her back. A 3-day survival test was no small thing. Even on a controlled habitat world, there would be real dangers. Professor Velthar continued. K-47 is classified as a Class 3 world. This is below Earth's rating, but it is still dangerous. The environment includes dense jungle, territorial predators, limited water sources, and various hostile flora and fauna. You must survive, find food and water, avoid serious injury, and reach the extraction point within 72 hours. He paused to let this sink in. You may form teams of any size with any members you choose. Choose wisely. The teams you form may determine whether you pass or fail this examination. Students immediately began forming groups. Most gathered with others of their own species. Hygen led a group of 5 Crethians, their armored bodies gleaming. Another group of flight-capable species formed around Nari, though she felt uncertain about her own abilities. Various other species-specific groups emerged around the assembly area. The 4 humans, Minho, Yuna, Jiho, and Arin, stood together speaking quietly. Zora approached them hesitantly, her sensory tendrils curling and uncurling with nervous energy. May I join your team? Zora asked the humans. I want to learn from you. I know I do not have your abilities, but I will try not to slow you down. Minho smiled warmly. Of course you can join us. Every team member brings value. You have excellent sensory abilities. That will be very useful in a jungle environment. Zora's tendrils brightened, which was her species' way of showing happiness. Thank you. I will do my best. The transport ships arrived the next morning. Students boarded nervously, carrying only basic supplies. Each team had been given a survival pack containing basic first aid, a beacon for emergencies, and minimal equipment. The humans had requested very simple items: knives, rope, basic containers. Nothing advanced. The journey to K-47 took several hours. Nari watched through the viewport as the jungle world grew larger. It looked beautiful from space. Green and vibrant. But she knew appearances could deceive. Beauty often hid danger. The ships landed at different starting points around the planet. Each team was dropped at least 10 kilometers from the extraction point. Professor Velthar's voice came through everyone's communicator. Your test begins now. Remember, if you face life-threatening danger, activate your emergency beacon. Rescue will arrive within minutes. Good luck to all of you. The human team's ship landed in a small clearing surrounded by thick jungle. The moment the door opened, the environment hit them. Heat, humidity, the sounds of strange creatures calling from the dense vegetation. The air smelled of wet earth and unknown plants. Hajun's team landed a few kilometers away. They immediately started walking toward the extraction point, confident in their natural armor and strength. They were loud, pushing through the jungle without concern. Nari's flight-capable team took to the air immediately, planning to stay above the danger and travel by flying from tree to tree. They felt safer up high, but the human team did something different. They did not rush forward. Instead, they stopped right at the clearing and gathered in a circle. Minho knelt and drew in the dirt with a stick, making a simple map. First priority, he said calmly, is establishing a base camp with water, shelter, and security. Should we not head toward the extraction point? Zora asked nervously. We have 72 hours, Yuna replied. The extraction point is only 10 kilometers away. We could walk there in a few hours. But arriving there exhausted and hungry helps nothing. We need to approach this systematically. Jiho was already examining the plants around the clearing. He crushed leaves between his fingers, smelling them. Some of these are similar to earth plants. I can identify which ones are likely safe. As an engineer, he had studied various organic materials and their properties. Aaron, the xenobiologist, walked the perimeter of the clearing, reading the ground. There are tracks here. Several different species. We need to understand what lives in this area and what might be dangerous. Minho listened carefully to the jungle sounds. Water, he said, pointing in one direction. I can hear flowing water that way. Maybe half a kilometer. The team moved through the jungle slowly and carefully. They were quiet. They observed everything. When they found the stream, they did not immediately drink. Yuna tested the water first using a basic field kit from their supplies. Safe, she confirmed. No harmful microorganisms that our filters cannot handle. They found a good location near the stream. A slight rise in the ground that would not flood if it rained. Large trees provided cover from above. The stream gave them water. Thick vegetation on three sides provided natural walls. This is good, Minho said. We make camp here. What happened next amazed Sora. The humans did not just sit down to rest. They worked. Jiho and Aaron gathered branches and leaves, constructing a shelter frame. Miho used rope and vines to secure it properly. Yuna worked on creating a proper drainage system around the shelter, so rain would flow away. Within 2 hours, they had built a structure that would protect them from weather and provide insulation. But they did not stop there. Minho walked the perimeter around the camp, looking at the ground carefully. He placed small sticks in specific patterns. He arranged stones. He created what he called an early warning system. If any large creature approached the camp, they would disturb these markers and make noise. Jiho created a simple water filter using sand, charcoal, and cloth. Always have clean water, he explained to Sora. More people die from bad water than from predators. Aaron identified edible plants nearby. She also found plants that were poisonous and marked them clearly, so no one would touch them by accident. Food is the third priority after shelter and water, she said. But knowing what not to eat is just as important as knowing what you can eat. As the sun began to set, the humans started a fire. Sora was impressed by how quickly Minho could create fire using only friction and dry materials. The fire served multiple purposes: warmth, cooking, light, and discouraging predators. They caught fish from the stream using a simple trap Yuna constructed. The fish cooked over the fire smelled wonderful. As the team ate, Sora realized something important. The humans were not just surviving. They were thriving. They had turned a dangerous jungle into a comfortable camp in just one afternoon. How did you learn all of this? Sora asked, her tendrils waving in the firelight. Practice, Minho said. On Earth, camping and survival skills are common knowledge. Many humans learn these things as children. We go into the wilderness for recreation, for fun, Sora said in disbelief. You go to dangerous places for entertainment? Yuna laughed softly. Earth is dangerous everywhere. All of it is wilderness compared to most planets. We had to learn to survive in nature, so we made it part of our culture. Teaching survival to children prepares them for emergencies. Through the night, the team took turns keeping watch. Even in sleep rotation, they stayed alert. The jungle made many noises. Strange calls. Movement in the darkness. But the camp remained safe. The fire burned steadily. The early warning systems remained undisturbed. Meanwhile, other teams struggled. Hajun's group found food easily because of their strength, but they were noisy. They attracted the attention of territorial predators and spent the night fighting off attacks. By morning, 2 of his team members had activated emergency beacons after being injured. Nari's flying team stayed in the trees, but they could not find reliable water sources. Flying took enormous energy, and without proper hydration, they became exhausted. By the second day, 3 members of her team gave up and activated their beacons. Several other teams made similar mistakes. They rushed forward without planning. They did not establish proper camps. They did not secure water and food. They reacted to dangers instead of preventing them. One by one, emergency beacons activated across the jungle as students failed the test. The human team's second day was productive. They expanded their camp. They dried fish and gathered edible plants to store. They created better tools from materials around them. Jiho made a simple spear. Aaron improved their water filtration. Minho scouted the area and mapped safe routes toward the extraction point. Sora helped where she could. Her sensory tendrils proved valuable for detecting approaching creatures. She could sense vibrations in the ground. She could detect chemical markers in the air. The humans incorporated her abilities into their defense system, making the camp even safer. You work together so well, Sora observed. How do you coordinate so easily? Practice and communication, Yuna explained. Humans evolved as social creatures. We naturally understand how to divide labor. Each person plays to their strengths. Jiho is good with construction. Irene understands biology. Minho is the best tracker and hunter. I can identify water sources and fish behavior. You provide early warning with your senses. Together, we are stronger than any one of us alone. On the morning of the third day, the team broke down their camp carefully. Hajun stood up slowly, his body still recovering from overheating. He approached the classroom felt different today. Students who had once sat casually now paid careful attention whenever Minho or Yuna spoke. Even Hajun, who had been so confident before, listened quietly. The lesson about human endurance had changed how everyone viewed the humans among them. Professor Velthar arranged the holographic display to show images of various predators hunting in groups. Wolves surrounded prey. Lions coordinated attacks. Even some alien species worked together to take down larger targets. Today, the professor announced, we will discuss pack tactics and predator psychology. Yuna stood beside the display, her data pad ready. Most pack hunters in the galaxy evolved to work together by instinct, she said. They are born knowing how to coordinate with others of their species. Humans are different. We learn to coordinate through intelligence. Sora's tendrils waved with interest. What is the difference? Instinct is powerful but limited, Minho explained. It works well in familiar situations, but intelligence allows adaptation. Humans can coordinate with other humans they have never met. We can plan complex strategies. We can predict what others will do before they do it. Professor Velthar nodded approvingly. This is called theory of mind. It is the ability to understand that other beings have thoughts and intentions. Humans are exceptional at this skill. They do not just predict what prey will do based on instinct. They predict what intelligent beings will think and decide. This sounds complicated, Nari said softly. How does this help with hunting? Let me show you, Yuna said with a small smile. Professor, may we use the forest habitat dome for a practical exercise? An hour later, the entire class stood at the edge of the Academy's forest habitat dome. This massive structure contained a real forest ecosystem, complete with trees, streams, and wildlife. It was used for various training exercises. Today it would host a war game. Professor Velthar explained the rules. This is a capture the flag exercise. There will be 2 teams. Team 1 will consist of 12 students of various species. Team 2 will consist of 4 humans. Minho, Yuna, and 2 others who have volunteered to help. 2 more humans joined them. A young man named Jiho, who was studying engineering, and a woman named Aaron, who specialized in xenobiology. Both looked as ordinary as Minho and Yuna, with no visible weapons or armor. Hajun immediately volunteered to lead the alien team. 12 against 4? That seems unfair. For the humans. He said this with confidence, but there was uncertainty in his voice. He was learning not to underestimate humans. We will make it more interesting, Professor Velthar said. The team of 12 will have access to standard equipment. Motion sensors, communication devices, and shield generators. The human team will have only basic supplies. This made the alien students relax. With technology and superior numbers, surely they would win. Nari chose to observe rather than participate. She wanted to see what would happen. Both teams were given 30 minutes to prepare. The alien team, led by Hajun, immediately set up a defensive perimeter around their flag. They placed motion sensors in a ring around it. They established communication protocols. They divided into groups, defenders around the flag, scouts to watch for the humans, and a strike team to capture the human flag. The humans gathered in a small circle far from the alien team. They spoke quietly, too quietly for the monitoring equipment to hear clearly. Then they split up. Minho went one direction. Yuna went another. Jiho and Aaron each took different paths. Within minutes, all 4 humans had disappeared into the forest. Begin, Professor Velthar announced. The alien team executed their plan smoothly. Scouts spread out to find the human flag. The defenders maintained their positions. Everything seemed under control. Hajun coordinated his team efficiently through their communication devices. Then strange things started happening. One of the scouts reported hearing sounds to the north. Not voices, but odd noises. Scratching, scraping, movement in the bushes. But when other scouts went to investigate, they found nothing. Another scout on the opposite side of the area reported similar sounds to the south. Then another reported seeing something moving to the east. Hajun divided his forces to investigate each report. Stay in pairs, Hajun ordered. Do not go alone. But the reports kept coming from different directions. The scouts were seeing movement everywhere. hearing sounds, finding signs of human presence, but never actually seeing the humans themselves. Nari watched from the observation deck with Professor Velthar. The professor had access to thermal imaging that showed where everyone actually was. She could see what was happening. Jiho and Aaron were deliberately making noise and leaving obvious signs. They would appear briefly, let themselves be seen, then vanish. They were not trying to hide. They were trying to be noticed. Meanwhile, Minho and Yuna were completely invisible. Their thermal signatures showed them moving slowly, carefully, avoiding all the sensors and scouts. They were not heading toward the alien flag. They were hunting the alien team members. What are they doing? Nari asked. Should they not be trying to capture the flag? Watch, Professor Velthar said simply. This is theory of mind in action. Hajun sent 3 scouts to chase after Jiho, who had been spotted near the western boundary. The scouts pursued him aggressively. Jiho led them on a chase, always staying just visible, always just out of reach. He was using his endurance. The alien scouts, built for short bursts of speed, began to tire. On the other side of the area, Aaron did the same thing. She drew 4 team members away from the flag by appearing and disappearing, leading them in circles. The aliens grew frustrated, chasing shadows. With the alien team scattered and distracted, Minho and Yuna struck. They moved behind one isolated scout and used a tagged marker to eliminate him from the game. The scout's equipment beeped, signaling he was out. He had not even seen them. One by one, the humans picked off isolated members of the alien team. They used the terrain to hide. They moved silently. Most importantly, they predicted where the aliens would go and waited in ambush. When Hajun realized what was happening, he had already lost half his team. Fall back to the flag, Hajun ordered urgently. Defend the position! The remaining alien team members retreated to their defensive perimeter. 4 defenders remained along with Hajun. They stood back to back, watching all directions. Their motion sensors covered all approaches to the flag. There was no way the humans could get close without being detected, but the humans did not approach the flag. Instead, all 4 of them appeared at the edge of the sensor range. They stood visible, making no effort to hide. They just watched. Hajun stared at them, confused. What are they doing? The humans did not move. They simply stood there. Seconds turned into minutes. The alien defenders grew nervous. Why were the humans not attacking? What were they planning? Should we attack them? One defender asked. No, Hajun said. They want us to leave our position. Stay in formation? More time passed. The tension grew unbearable. The aliens kept looking around, expecting an attack from another direction, but nothing happened. The humans just stood there watching, waiting. Then Nari realized what was happening. She spoke into the communication channel. They are not planning an attack, she said. They are attacking your psychology. They are making you afraid, making you doubt, making you wonder what they are really planning. And she was right. The alien defenders were becoming paranoid. They kept checking their sensors, looking over their shoulders. The calm, patient faces of the humans were more terrifying than any roar or charge would have been. Finally, Hajun made a decision. We cannot just stand here forever. We attack. He led his remaining team members forward, leaving the flag defended by motion sensors and shield generators. The moment they moved, the humans scattered. 2 went left, 2 went right. Hajun tried to coordinate a pursuit, but his team was already exhausted from the earlier chasing. The humans, using their superior endurance, led them in circles until the aliens were too tired to continue effectively. Then the humans struck from an unexpected direction. All 4 had circled back. They approached the flag from 4 different angles simultaneously. The motion sensors detected them, but with no defenders nearby, the sensors were useless. In perfect coordination, all 4 humans reached the flag at the exact same moment. They had planned their approach with precise timing. The game ended. The alien team stood in shock. They had been outmaneuvered completely. Professor Velthar gathered everyone for a discussion. What did you learn? He asked. Hajun spoke slowly, thinking through what had happened. They did not try to overpower us. They made us defeat ourselves. They made us afraid. They made us separate. They made us chase them until we were too tired to think clearly. They controlled our decisions. Exactly, Yuna said. Human warfare evolved not just from hunting animals but from competing with other humans. We learned to predict what intelligent enemies would do, We learned to use deception. We learned to create fear and doubt. These are psychological weapons, Minho added. On Earth, humans fought each other for resources for thousands of years. This created what we call an arms race of intelligence. Each group had to think smarter than their enemies. They had to predict strategies and counter them. This made humans very good at understanding how. The next class session began with Professor Velthar dimming the lights. A large holographic display filled the center of the room, showing various creatures running across different landscapes. The students settled into their seats with more interest than usual. After watching Minho's hunting demonstration, everyone wanted to learn more about human capabilities. Minho stood beside the professor, still looking remarkably ordinary. He wore the same simple clothing. No armor, no visible weapons. Yet after the last class, no one was laughing anymore. Even Hajun sat quietly, his armored scales catching the dim light as he leaned forward to pay attention. Today we will discuss a hunting method that is almost unique to humans, Professor Velthar began. It is called persistence hunting. Minho, would you explain? Minho nodded and stepped forward. He moved to the holographic display and gestured to an image of an earth animal. It looked like a four-legged creature with horns. This is a kudu, he said. On Earth, some human hunters would chase animals like this for many hours. Sometimes 8 hours, sometimes more. Sora's sensory tendrils curled in confusion. But that creature looks much faster than you. How can you catch it by chasing it? You are right, Minho agreed. A kudu can run much faster than any human. It can run at 80 kilometers per hour. A human can only run at about 20 kilometers per hour at best. He paused. But the kudu cannot run at full speed for very long. After a few minutes, it must stop to cool down. Humans, however, can keep running for hours without stopping. Hajun shifted in his seat. I do not understand. Why would the prey not just run away and hide? Because humans do not give up, Minho said simply. We follow the tracks. We read the signs. We keep coming. The prey runs, stops to rest, then sees us still coming. It runs again, stops again. But we never stop. Eventually, after many hours, the prey's body fails from exhaustion and overheating. We walk up to it while it lies on the ground, too tired to run anymore. The classroom fell silent. Nari felt a chill run through her wings. The idea of being chased forever, of never being able to escape, was terrifying. It was not a quick hunt. It was inevitable. Professor Velthar brought up more data on the display. Humans have several unique adaptations that allow this hunting method. First, they walk and run on 2 legs, which is very energy efficient for long distances. Second, they have a remarkable cooling system. He gestured to Minho. Would you explain? Humans sweat, Minho said. He held up his bare arm. We have millions of small pores in our skin. When we get hot, water comes out of these pores. As the water evaporates, it cools our body. This allows us to regulate our temperature very precisely, even while running for hours. Most species in the galaxy cannot do this, Professor Velthar added. Most species cool down by panting, which requires them to stop moving. Or they have other cooling methods that are less efficient. Humans can run and cool down at the same time. Hajun raised his hand. Professor, with respect, this sounds theoretical. I can run for a long time, too. My species is known for endurance. Professor Velthar's crystalline face seemed to smile, though it was hard to tell with his alien features. I was hoping someone would say that. I have arranged a practical demonstration. We will be using the Academy's athletics facility, a simple endurance test. 20 minutes later, the entire class stood at the edge of a large running track. The track was 20 kilometers long, winding through various terrains inside a massive dome. The temperature was set to 35 degrees Celsius, which the computer announced was normal for many Earth environments. Nari already felt uncomfortable in the heat. Her wings twitched nervously. This was much warmer than her homeworld's comfortable 20 degrees. The challenge is simple, Professor Velthar announced. Complete the 20-kilometer course. You may move at any pace you choose. There is no time limit. However, once you stop, you cannot restart. If you must withdraw, simply press your emergency beacon. Hajun stepped up confidently. I will show you Krethian endurance, he announced. Several other students also volunteered, wanting to prove themselves. The race began. Hajun surged ahead immediately, his powerful legs carrying him forward at impressive speed. Other students followed at their own paces. Nari chose not to participate. She knew her limitations. Her species was built for short bursts of flight, not sustained running. Minho started at an easy jog. He was not slow, but he was not rushing either. His breathing was steady and controlled. Nari noticed something strange. While other students were already breathing hard, Minho looked completely relaxed. His face was covered with small drops of water, the sweat he had mentioned. But he did not seem distressed by it. By the 3-kilometer mark, Hajun was slowing down. His armored scales were absorbing heat from the environment and from his own body. His breathing had become labored. At 4 kilometers, he stopped completely, his body overheating. He pressed his emergency beacon, and medical drones arrived to cool him down with water spray. "I do not understand," Hajun gasped. "I am built for combat. I am strong." "Strength is not the same as endurance," Professor Velthar said gently. "Your armor protects you, but it also traps heat. In a sprint, you would win easily. But over long distances, your body works against you." One by one, the other students withdrew. Sora made it to 8 kilometers before her body temperature became dangerous. Another student from a cold world species barely made it 5 kilometers before the heat became unbearable. Even the students from warmer worlds struggled. Most could not cool down efficiently while moving. Minho kept running. His pace never changed. Steady, consistent, relentless. 15 kilometers, 18 kilometers, 20 kilometers. When he crossed the finish line, his breathing was heavy, and his simple clothing was soaked with sweat. But he was still moving. He walked in cool-down circles, his body temperature already dropping back to normal levels. "That was good exercise," Minho said, drinking water from a container. "On Earth, many humans run marathons for recreation. That is 42 kilometers. Some run ultra-marathons. Those can be 100 kilometers or more." The alien student stared at him in disbelief. Hajun looked down at his own powerful body with new understanding. "You just never stop," he said quietly. "No," Minho agreed. "We do not." Another voice spoke from the entrance to the track. "He is also not showing off." Everyone turned. Another human stood there, this one female. She was slightly shorter than Minho, with long dark hair tied back. She wore clothing similar to Minho's, simple and practical. She carried a data pad under one arm. "This is Yuna," Professor Velthar said. "She is another human student here at the academy. She studies marine biology. Yuna, we were not expecting you until next class." "I apologize for being late," Yuna said, bowing slightly. "But I heard you were demonstrating human endurance, and I thought I should add some context." She walked over to stand beside Minho. What Minho just did, running 20 kilometers in the heat, is something most adult humans can learn to do with training. It is not exceptional for our species. It is normal. Sora's tendrils drooped in exhaustion, but she still managed to ask, "How is that possible?" Yuna activated her data pad, and a hologram of Earth appeared above it. The blue and green planet rotated slowly. "This is our home," she said. "Let me tell you about Earth, so you understand why humans evolved this way." She zoomed the hologram in on different areas of the planet. Earth is 70% covered in water. In these oceans live creatures that dwarf any land predator. Whales that are 30 meters long. Sharks that have hunted for 400 million years. Giant squids with tentacles strong enough to fight whales. The hologram shifted to show land environments. On land, Earth has almost every possible climate. Frozen poles where temperatures drop to minus 50 degrees. Deserts where temperatures reach 50 degrees. Jungles so dense you cannot see the sky. Mountains so tall the air becomes too thin to breathe. Earth also has weather, Yuna continued. The hologram showed swirling storms. Hurricanes with winds that can destroy buildings. Tornadoes that can lift vehicles into the air. Monsoons that flood entire regions. Earthquakes that split the ground open. Volcanic eruptions that cover the sky in ash. Nari felt her wings trembling. "How does anything survive there?" "That is exactly the point," Yuna said. Life on Earth had to become incredibly resilient to survive. But humans did not just survive. We spread to every continent. We lived in the frozen Arctic. We lived in the hottest deserts. We lived in the highest mountains and the deepest jungles. We learned to survive everywhere. She pulled up another image. And we did this without natural weapons. No claws, no armor, no venom. We did it through persistence, adaptability, and endurance. We did it by never giving up. Minho added, "Humans also had to compete with other predators on Earth. Large cats that could kill us with one bite. Bears that were stronger than 10 humans. Wolves that hunted in coordinated packs. We were not the biggest or strongest, but we could outlast them all. Professor Velthar gestured to the holographic Earth still rotating above Yuna's datapad. This is why Earth is classified as a Class 9 death world, not because it has one dangerous feature, but because it has many. Surviving there required developing every possible advantage. Humans evolved to be generalists who could adapt to anything. The classroom buzzed with nervous energy as students from across the galaxy settled into their seats. The Galactic Academy station floated peacefully in orbit around Valaris Prime, but inside room 47B, nothing felt peaceful. Today was different. Today, Professor Velthar had promised them something special. Nari folded her moth-like wings tightly against her back and tried to make herself small. The Felnari student always felt nervous in Apex Predator Studies class. Every lesson reminded her how fragile her species was compared to others. She glanced around the room at her classmates. There was Hajun, the Crethean student who never missed a chance to show off his natural armor plating. His scales gleamed under the classroom lights. Beside him sat Sora, a Venlith whose sensory tendrils twitched with curiosity at everything. Professor Velthar entered the room with his usual grace. His forearms moved independently as he organized his teaching materials. His crystalline skin reflected the light in rainbow patterns. He was a Quellan, a species known for their patience and wisdom. The students fell silent immediately. "Good morning, everyone," the professor said, his voice calm and measured. "Today we have a very special guest joining us. As you know, we have been studying apex predators from various worlds. We have learned about the Krathiks from Bendor Prime, the Shadowstalkers of Valoon, and the Razorwings of Thelmar." He paused, letting his words sink in. "But today, we will meet a predator from one of the most dangerous worlds in the known galaxy." The students leaned forward. Nari felt her hearts beating faster. The most dangerous worlds were classified as Class 8 or Class 9 death worlds. Only the strongest, most terrifying creatures could survive there. "Today," Professor Velthar continued, "we will be joined by a human from Earth." The room erupted in whispers. Earth. Everyone had heard of Earth. It was a Class 9 death world, one of the highest danger ratings possible. Stories about Earth were legendary. A world covered mostly in water, with massive predators lurking in the depths. A world where the weather itself could kill you. A world where even the smallest creatures carried deadly diseases. Hajun laughed loudly, his voice echoing off the walls. "A human? Professor, with respect, I have seen images of humans. They have no natural armor, no claws, no venom, no natural weapons at all. They are small and soft. How can they be apex predators?" Several other students nodded in agreement. It did seem strange. Every apex predator they had studied so far had obvious advantages. Strength, speed, natural weapons, or special abilities. Humans appeared to have none of these things. Professor Velthar's crystalline face remained neutral. "That is exactly why this lesson will be valuable. Sometimes the most dangerous predators are not the ones you expect. I encourage you to keep an open mind." The door slid open with a soft hiss. Everyone turned to look. A human walked into the room. He was of average height for his species, with dark hair and calm eyes. He wore simple clothing with no visible armor or weapons. His skin was smooth without scales or protective plating. He moved quietly, almost silently, across the floor. There was something about the way he carried himself that made Nari pay attention despite her fear. "Class, this is Minho," Professor Velthar said. "He is a hunter from Earth's Korean Peninsula region. He has agreed to demonstrate hunting techniques from his homeworld." Minho bowed slightly to the class. "Thank you for having me," he said simply. His voice was quiet but clear. Hajun crossed his arms over his armored chest. "No offense, human, but you look nothing like a predator. Where are your weapons? Your armor? How do you even survive on a Class 9 death world?" Minho smiled slightly. It was not an aggressive expression, but something about it made Nari's instincts flare. "Those are good questions," Minho said. "Perhaps I can show you instead of telling you." Professor Velthar gestured to the center of the room where a holographic projector hummed to life. "Minho has agreed to demonstrate his skills using our virtual reality hunting simulation. This is the same simulation we use to test your understanding of predator behavior." The hologram flickered and then solidified into a lush alien landscape. Trees with purple leaves stretched toward a green sky. In the distance, a large creature grazed on vegetation. The simulation displayed information about the creature above its head. "This is a Vorskal. Professor Velthar explained. It lives on a Class 4 world. It weighs 600 kilograms. Its hide is thick and armored. It is territorial and will charge if threatened. It can run at 60 kilometers per hour. It has excellent hearing and smell. Your task is to track and capture it alive. Hajun stood up immediately. I will go first, he announced confidently. He stepped into the simulation field, and his body shimmered as the VR system connected to his nervous system. The class watched as Hajun tried to approach the Vorskal. He was strong and well-armored, but he was not quiet. Within minutes, the Vorskal detected him. It charged. Hajun tried to stand his ground, but the simulation ended when the massive creature would have trampled him. The hologram faded. Hajun stepped out, looking frustrated. I was too loud, he admitted grudgingly. Sora volunteered next. The Venlith student used her natural camouflage abilities and technological sensors. She got closer than Hajun, but the Vorskal could sense electromagnetic fields. Her sensors gave her away. The creature fled before she could capture it. She emerged from the simulation looking disappointed. The Vorskal can detect technology, she said sadly. My sensors betrayed me. No one else volunteered. Nari certainly was not going to try. Her species had powerful flight or flight instincts. She knew she would just panic and fly away. Minho, Professor Velthar said gently, would you like to attempt the simulation? The human nodded and stepped forward.
May I modify the starting parameters?
He asked. What would you like to change? The professor responded. I would like to remove all advanced technology, Minho said. Give me only simple tools. A knife, some rope, wooden stakes, and time. Hajun laughed again. You want less equipment? That makes no sense. Minho did not respond to the mockery. He simply waited for the professor to adjust the simulation. When the holographic world activated around him, Minho stood very still. The class watched, expecting him to chase the Vorskal immediately. He did not move. Minutes passed. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Minho simply observed the creature. He watched how it moved, where it walked, what it ate, when it drank water. What is he doing? Hajun whispered. He is wasting time, but Professor Velthar raised one of his 4 hands for silence. Watch, he said simply. After an hour of observation, Minho finally moved. But he did not move toward the Vorskal. Instead, he gathered mud from near a stream. He covered his skin with it. Then he rubbed himself with local plants. The class did not understand why. He is masking his scent, Professor Velthar said quietly. The Vorskal hunts by smell. Minho is making himself invisible to its primary sense. Minho then studied the land carefully. He found a narrow passage between 2 large rocks that the Vorskal used regularly. He placed small wooden stakes into the ground at specific angles. He arranged stones and branches to create a subtle barrier that would force the creature to slow down. Then he waited again. Hours passed in the simulation, though only minutes passed in real time due to time compression. The students began to understand. This was not about speed or strength. This was about patience. As the sun began to set in the simulated world, the Vorskal returned along its usual path. It approached the narrow passage. Minho waited behind a large rock, downwind where his scent could not reach the creature. His breathing was slow and controlled. The Vorskal entered the passage and slowed just as Minho had predicted. In one smooth motion, the human emerged, but he did not attack. Instead, he drove the creature forward using loud noises, making it run through the passage. The wooden stakes in arranged terrain channeled its movement. Within minutes, Minho had used rope to immobilize the creature's legs using the terrain itself as leverage. The Vorskal fell gently to its side, unharmed but unable to move. The simulation ended. Minho stepped out of the field. The classroom was completely silent. Professor Velthar's crystalline face seemed to glow brighter. Class, he said softly, what did you just witness? Sora's tendrils waved excitedly. He did not use strength. He did not use speed. He used patience and observation. Exactly, the professor confirmed. Minho spent 4 hours preparing and only 4 minutes acting. He understood the creature's behavior. He used the environment instead of fighting against it. This is how humans hunt. Hajun stared at Minho with new eyes. I have never seen anything like that, he admitted. Minho bowed again to the class. On Earth we have a saying, he said quietly. The best hunter is not the strongest or the fastest. The best hunter is the one who understands his prey. Nari felt something shift in her understanding. Maybe apex predators did not always look dangerous. Maybe the most dangerous ones looked ordinary until it was too late.